go blue. Did Disney just learn a lesson about the phrase go woke and go broke? We face risk relating to misalignment with public and consumer tastes and preferences for entertainment, travel, and consumer products.
When a Disney princess movie flops so hard that even The Simpsons seemingly mocks it on primetime TV, you know the story went off the rails. Yes, Disney's new Snow White hasn't even hit theaters, but it's already a punchline on primetime TV. The Simpsons dropped a savage parody called Snow Woke the Reimagining, and it's as brutal as it sounds. They went all in mocking Disney's controversial Snow White remake, and by extension, Rachel's role in it. It's like the writers took every bit of drama around this movie and said, let's have some fun with it.
Yes, but they're my own original creation. Did for her prince to come, but he never did. Because a woman shouldn't have to depend on a man. Snow White was brought back to life by a lady doctor.
And she lived happily ever after?
Well, she couldn't indulge in strenuous activities like handball.
And fun they had, at Rachel's expense. The parody shows a Snow White character banning princes, lecturing about modern ideas, and even bombing at the box office in the Simpsons universe. Ouch. They even have a cartoon Rachel Zegler go on the Krusty the Clown show and absolutely lose it in a comedic meltdown, crown slipping and all. It's a blink and you miss it segment, but the internet caught it, and it's viral. This kind of pop culture sucker punch is something The Simpsons does best, but for Rachel, it's the last thing she needed. And trust me, her reaction, or lack thereof, speaks volumes. So, how is Rachel Zegler taking being the butt of a Simpsons joke?
Snow White bombs, breaks records for the lowest live-action remake opening ever. Let me say that again, ever.
Publicly, she's silent, dead silent. No tweets, no Instagram stories, not a peep. Remember, this is someone who used to be very online, clapping back at trolls and speaking her mind. Now, it's radio silence. And that silence is pretty telling. Insiders are whispering that behind closed doors, Rachel is furious. We're hearing talk of her being absolutely livid and feeling humiliated. I mean, can you blame her? It's one thing to deal with Twitter haters, but when a legendary show like The Simpsons labels your big movie Snow Woke and makes you a laughingstock cartoon character, that's on another level. According to rumor, she vented to anyone who would listen. Friends, her PR team, maybe even Disney execs, about how unfair and mean-spirited the parody was. There's even speculation she wanted Disney to call up Fox and complain, or try to get the sketch pulled. But come on, that was never gonna happen.
Worst opening weekend in the history of Disney live-action movies. Well, live-action animated remakes, we should say. That's not very good, even below something like Dumbo that absolutely flopped at the box office.
The Simpsons has made fun of every big name out there. They're not about to censor themselves to spare an actress's feelings. If anything, trying to fight it would only make it a bigger story. So publicly, Rachel's doing the only thing she can do. Staying quiet, hoping it blows over. But fans aren't stupid. They can sense the awkwardness. Message boards and comment sections are buzzing with "Rachel must be fuming right now" posts. If she reacts publicly, she risks more backlash. If she stays quiet, the speculation grows. But how the heck did we get here? How did the new Snow White go from a Disney crown jewel to a total culture war punching bag, complete with a Simpsons smackdown?
Are there any dwarves in your story?
Yes, but they're my own original creation. There's Krabby, Drunky, Hungry, Greedy, Lenny,
Kearney,
and Doc. Tor Hibbert.
Buckle up, because this story is a wild ride of controversies and PR nightmares that have snowballed. At first, some people were like, a Latina Snow White? Yep, Rachel is Colombian American, and predictably, a corner of the internet lost its mind over that. Racist backlash? Unfortunately, check. But Disney stuck to their guns on casting. After all, Rachel is talented, and she literally has Snow White skin, despite not being of German descent like the original fairy tale. That initial drama was actually the tamest part of this saga. The real trouble started when Rachel began talking about the movie, and boy, did she talk. In early interviews, Rachel made it abundantly clear that this Snow White would be a 2020s reimagining, not the 1937 cartoon. Fair enough, Disney's been all about modernizing their classics.
Progressive in one way, but you're still making that fucking backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the f are you doing, man?
But Rachel's wording rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. She famously said the original Snow White story was, quote, extremely dated, and that Snow White in this version won't be saved by the prince because the prince in the cartoon was basically a stalker. A stalker. You can imagine how that went over with fans of the classic. She went on about how Snow White is a leader now, not just dreaming about true love like in the old film. Calling Prince Charming a creepy stalker, saying the love story that generations grew up with is weird. That was like sacrilege. Clips of her interviews went viral for all the wrong reasons. Suddenly, Rachel was being painted as an entitled, ungrateful New Age actress who hates the very movie she's starring in. People started calling her Snow Wine and Snow Wake Up. It was brutal. The backlash got so bad that Rachel essentially stopped doing promo and went low profile for a while, likely on Disney's orders.
Because right now there's more dwarves on this podcast than there are in the new Snow White movie. And that's probably due to Peter Dinklage.
Yep.
Damage control mode on. And that was just one layer of the storm. Next, we have the 7 dwarfs, or rather, the lack thereof. Remember how in the classic, Snow White's best buddies are Doc, Grumpy, Happy, and the rest of the 7 dwarfs? Well, in this remake, Disney decided to ditch the traditional dwarfs to avoid reinforcing stereotypes. Sounds fine in theory, no one wants offensive caricatures in 2025. But the way they went about it pleased nobody. This drama actually kicked off when Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage, who has dwarfism, slammed Disney early on. He basically said, cool, you cast a Latina Snow White for representation, but you're still doing that backwards story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave? Hypocritical much? Disney scrambled.
Snow White slept and waited for her prince to come, but he never did. Because a woman shouldn't have to depend on a man. Snow White was brought back to life by a lady doctor.
And she lived happily ever after?
Well, she couldn't indulge in strenuous activities like handball, but otherwise, she was fine.
That's nice.
Looking totally caught off guard, they hastily announced, we're taking a different approach with the 7 characters. Fast forward to leaked set photos. Instead of 7 cute little men, we saw what looked like a ragtag bunch of human-like magical creatures of various races and genders following Rachel's Snow White. Only one appeared to be a little person, and the rest were just average height folks. Social media went berserk over those images. Some people thought it was a prank or fake because it looked so absurd. Others were angry. On one hand, advocates for little people were mad that dwarf actors lost roles because Disney overcorrected with CGI or stand-ins. Eventually, reports clarified that Disney's plan is to make the dwarfs' CGI characters entirely in post-production, voiced mostly by non-dwarf actors, with only one dwarf actor in the mix.
This is no ordinary apple, my dear. It's a magic wishing apple.
A wishing apple?
Yes!
That didn't really calm anyone down. If anything, it just added fuel. The hashtag number #NotMySnowWhite started trending. Fans of the original were rolling their eyes, and critics on YouTube had a field day calling it Snow White and the 7 NPCs. Harsh. It was around this time the nickname Snow Woke started picking up steam online. Little did we know The Simpsons would immortalize that joke later. Now add another layer of drama, Rachel versus Gal Gadot. In the movie, Gal Gadot plays the evil queen to Rachel's Snow White. On screen, that's a classic hero-villain duo. Off screen, it sounds like the dynamic was just as icy. Rumors have swirled for months that Rachel and Gal did not get along behind the scenes. They're professionals, sure. There was no public catfight or anything. But multiple industry insiders hinted at tension between them. Part of it might simply be an age and experience gap. But there's also a big elephant in the room.
One bite and all your dreams will come true.
You offer it to me freely. In place of the patriarchy, you would have a queen! Not white, but diverse, inclusive, and equitable!
Their political stances. According to People magazine sources, the 2 actresses basically kept things cordial but distant. Not friends is the polite way to put it. They apparently have nothing in common and just did their jobs without mingling. Disney, already panicking from the other controversies, definitely did not want to throw gasoline on that fire. So during the limited press tour, they avoided putting Rachel and Gal in too many joint interviews. And if you watch some of the promo clips that do exist, you can kind of feel a bit of awkward energy. In one, Rachel cracks a joke about Snow White not needing a prince, and Gal just gives this tight smile, like she's thinking, "Get me out of here." By now, the Snow White remake was drowning in bad PR. Offended fans, political minefields, on-set tension, you name it. And we're still not done. Remember Rachel's social media presence? Well, it wasn't just fairy tale commentary that got her in trouble. She also made the cardinal sin of getting political in a highly polarized time. Now, lots of young stars are vocal, but because she was already under the microscope, this became a whole thing. Right-wing commentators pounced on it.
They did not hold back. Now, tell me exactly what it is you're afraid of.
I keep having the same dream. Everywhere I look, people are being replaced.
Okay, and who do you think is going to have you replaced?
Them. The puppet masters.
Suddenly, it wasn't just Disney fans upset with her. It was a slice of conservative America. Prominent voices on the right started dragging her, saying she's another woke brat and urging Disney to fire her. One particularly nasty comment came from Megyn Kelly, who actually called Rachel a petulant brat and even a princess with piggy behavior. Yes, she went there, on her podcast. She basically told Disney to redo the whole film without Rachel. Imagine hearing that as the lead actress. Yikes. Here, they have a $200+ million movie teetering on the edge because its star couldn't stop igniting controversies. According to reports, Disney even hired a special social media handler for Rachel. Essentially, a PR babysitter to vet everything she posted after that point. Think about that. The Mouse House was so nervous, they put their new princess in Twitter timeout. We also heard Rachel was given a gag order of sorts. Stop talking about Snow White, stop talking about politics, just stop talking publicly until further notice. And that's exactly what she did. She virtually disappeared from interviews and social media for months in late 2023 into 2024, aside from occasional non-controversial posts. Disney was clearly trying to ride out the storm by going dark.
The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway. And then I see Butters, and he's like, "Hey, Eric, you want to see what my mom packed me for lunch?" And that's when I start to notice that something's wrong.
By the time 2024 rolled around, Snow White got pushed to 2025. Officially, they blamed needing more time for post-production. Unofficially, many suspected Disney wanted to let the drama cool off. Maybe people would forget all the chaos if they waited a year, right? Well, enter The Simpsons to make sure nobody forgets. Seriously, the timing couldn't be worse for Disney. Just as they're hoping to rehabilitate the Snow White image, The Simpsons essentially dumps a bucket of satirical ice water on their efforts. And now everyone is talking about Snow Woke again. It's reminiscent of when South Park or Family Guy torched something in pop culture. Once it's mocked on a mainstream platform, it's cemented as a joke in the public mind. Good luck coming back from that. I mean, how do you market a sincere, magical Snow White movie when audiences have seen the Simpsons version calling it out as a cringe fest? Even people who hadn't followed the controversy might see that parody and go, "Wait, what's wrong with Snow White?" And then a quick Google sends them down the rabbit hole of all the drama. At this point, the phrase "go woke, go broke" is hanging over this film like a dark cloud. It's unfair in some ways. Plenty of factors go into a movie's success, but it's become the narrative. Disney's been through a string of underperforming remakes and sequels, and a lot of folks are preemptively declaring Snow White DOA at the box office. The Simpsons parody even joked about the movie bombing, which is cheeky considering it hasn't opened yet.
Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse? But then Kennedy's like, it's not our fault, it's because of Kathleen Kennedy. But then Kathleen Kennedy's just like, fuck it, make it more lame. And everyone in town is like, no, please, Kathleen Kennedy, stop ruining everything.
But hey, given the trajectory, the writers aren't exactly reaching with that gag. The film has a massive budget and a year-long marketing campaign ahead, so turning public perception around is going to be an uphill battle. Think about it. The story so far has been negative headline after negative headline. By the time we actually get to release, casual moviegoers might only remember, wasn't there something off about that movie? Didn't the lead actress say something dumb? Didn't The Simpsons make fun of it? That's a brutal uphill climb for Disney's marketing team. They're probably going to lean heavily into showing anything but Rachel in the trailers, focusing on visuals, Gal Gadot's performance, nostalgia, whatever positive they can find. There's even speculation they might throw Rachel under the bus and limit her presence in promotions, which, to be honest, they've already been doing. You know it's bad when the star of the film is essentially hidden for being too controversial. Now, where does all this leave Rachel Zegler herself? Honestly, in a tough spot. Just a couple years ago, she was Hollywood's next big thing. The breakout star of West Side Story, charming and talented, with Disney princess looks and pipes to match. Fast forward, and she's become a cautionary tale about PR in the age of social media. The girl is only in her early 20s, and she's learning in the hardest way that every word you say can and will be used against you in the court of public opinion. Some industry insiders are speculating, if Snow White flops as badly as the internet doom predictors say, could it derail her career?
But Kathleen Kennedy is all like, put another gay diverse woman in it, make it more fucking lame. And the Disney stock just keeps going down and down and down. And then Bob Iger is all like, no, what's going on with my stocks? No, Kathleen Kennedy. Ah!
On the flip side, Hollywood loves a comeback. If Rachel plays her cards right, she could win people over again. But that's a story for the future. Right now, she's in the eye of the storm, and every move is under scrutiny. As for The Simpsons' Snow Woke stunt, some fans actually see a twisted silver lining. Maybe Disney will finally realize that audiences don't want preachy, joyless reboots of beloved classics. The parody struck a chord because it echoed what a lot of frustrated fans were already thinking. It held up a funhouse mirror to Disney's approach and Rachel's missteps, exaggerating them just enough to be funny, but not so much that it didn't ring true. Disney higher-ups had to be cringing watching that. Publicly, they won't acknowledge it, of course, but you can bet they're discussing it in boardrooms. Have we gone too far in the modernize everything direction? Are we alienating our core audience? When your company's big holiday release becomes late-night joke fodder, you have a problem. In the end, this whole Snow White saga has turned into a perfect storm of 21st century folly. It's a lot for one film to bear. One thing's certain, people will be watching, either to see a train wreck or to see if the underdog can pull off a happy ending after all. As for Rachel Zegler, she's probably hoping this nightmare blows over long before she ever has to don that yellow skirt and smile for the cameras again at the premiere. Until then, she's keeping her head down. And if she does catch that Simpsons episode, well, let's just say I hope she has a sense of humor, or at least a thick skin. Because in this fairy tale, the princess is getting roasted, and the bards of Springfield spared no mercy.